In this video, we're going to create our first Java program. So I have NetBeans open. I have up the start page. The start page will display every time you start NetBeans. However, if you get tired of looking at it, it has some features you might want to go through. Take a tour, try a sample project, what's new, community corner, demos and tutorials on applications. Feel free to browse through those. If you don't want to see it pop up anymore when you start, you can uncheck this button, show on startup, and then when you close this, it won't appear on your startup anymore. So I'm going to uncheck it because I don't need to see this every time. There's up in the menus, you can turn that back on if you do want to get to it. So I am going to start here, and over here on the left side I have a project window, and over here on the right side is where my code editor will be. I'm going to go up here. There's a couple places to do this. I can click the plus icon on this folder to create a new Java project. And we'll have to pick Java. Or I can go up to File, and I can click New Project. Or you can see when I hovered, or right here on the menu, I can also hit Control-Shift-N to create a new project. Either way you choose, we can create a project. I usually use the icon. So I create it. Now we have some choices on what kind of Java projects we're going to create. We're going to be using Java with Ant. It's basic Java, just made to run with console screens. Java with Maven and Gradle are used for different things. So Java with Ant is traditional Java console window things. And so we're going to start there. Java with Ant and Java application. Now in the future, after I do this the first time, when I create a new project, it will have Java with Ant and Java application highlighted by default. But for this first time especially, well, you should always check to make sure that you're running the version you think, Java with Ant, Java application. Notice when I highlight it this time, it says this feature is not yet enabled. So we're going to see something happen here this first time that you may not see happen again. And that is that it's going to go out and find the feature, and it's going to do some enabling here. It's activating Java SE. And it might take a few seconds. And then it comes up with this window. Now in the future, I won't see it doing the activation thing. It'll just come up with this window. And in this window, it wants us to give it a project name. So I am going to call this project. We'll see if it fails because I've probably used this computer before. I'm going to do Hello World. And it says that project folder already exists, and it's not empty because I've used this computer to show people how to do their first program before. So you can call yours Hello World. I'm going to call mine Hello World 1. Okay, that works. All right. The next box we see is the project location. Where do we want this project to be stored? For now, for this project, it's going to be in my user folder in my documents, in a folder that it creates for me called NetBeans projects. That's a fine location. Where do you want the project folder? It's going to be in the same spot. So I'm not going to change my location. If you want to change your location where you're creating this, you can hit browse and put it wherever you want. We will be working with repositories in Git in this course, which I do in all my courses. So if you're in the future and you want to do this and make a repo out of it, you want to probably use your repo folder. But for this first example, we're not worried about that. Okay. And there's one other important box that we always want to make sure is checked. I mean, we can do it manually later, but it's nice to just have it done. And that is create the main class. We want the main class to be created automatically. And by default, that box should be checked. But just double check it to make sure that it's checked. And it was, so I didn't have to do anything there. And I'm just going to click Finish. And over here on the left, we can see our Java project. Mine's called Hello World 1. Okay. Inside that, if I collapse these all, it starts out expanded, but I'm going to collapse it so you can see. Inside there, there's a source package folder and there's a libraries folder. The libraries are where, for instance, all the JDK built-in stuff is in there. We're not going to mess with that folder. Source packages. Here's our package. It's called Hello World. Notice that our project has capital letters. I named it with a capital H and a capital W. And our package is named with lowercase. Those are standard Java ways to name packages, and we'll talk about those later. And then here is Hello World 1, in my case, .java. And if I click on it, it's over here. If I would click, if it's not over here, you can double click on it and it opens up our editor, and we can see a default program that was created with something called a main method. This, between these curly braces, and let me make my screen bigger so that it's easier to read in the video. Okay, so here's my file at the top. This is just a comment, a block comment, and this is another block comment. So anywhere you see a /* and then a bunch of stars followed by a */, they're comments and they don't do anything to our program. Matter of fact, this top one really annoys me. So I'm going to delete it. We do need to have the package name up here. This comment right above our class is where we usually tell people what the class is for. But at the very least, maybe put your name in for the author. Your assignments will be specific on what comments you should put at the top of your code. And then we see the public class. For all intents and purposes, the class is our computer program. So we'll call this our program. It's the class. It's going to run. When a class runs, when we try to run it, the compiler, excuse me, is always looking for this main method. So it always says public static void main, and then in parentheses it has this strings with the square brackets and args. You'll learn what all that means later. But between this curly brace, the left curly brace, and this right curly brace, in here is where we want to put our code. Okay, so any code that we put in here is what will run when we run the program. So the rest of the stuff is required, but it's generated for us automatically. So all we need to do is find this main method, and inside between this curly brace and the ending curly brace, that's where we want to write our first line of code. And the first line I want you to write is this one. System, notice there's a capital S on system, dot out dot print line, and then in here inside quotation marks is where we can put some words. So we're going to write hello world. Now this little X here is NetBeans trying to do us a favor by telling us that there needs to be a parameter inside print line between these parentheses, that we have to type something here. That confuses people a lot. So to get rid of that hint, you can come up to View and turn off inside. It says Show Inline Hints, and I'm going to turn that off. When you're starting to do long methods and things later on, sometimes that's useful to have on. But right now, it's going to confuse people more than anything. So View, go down to Show Inline Hints and uncheck it. And now that X will disappear because that wasn't actually code. That was a hint from NetBeans telling us that we needed to have something in here, which we do have something. We have inside quotation marks, we have hello world. Now we said that Java is a compiled language and that we need the Java development kit and the Java runtime environment to make it run. NetBeans also takes care of that for us. Right up here is a button. I'm going to hover over it and it says Run Project. Okay, so what you have to understand when you click this Run Project button is doing several things. it is going to compile our program for us. And it's going to run our program for us. So I'm going to click that. And down here, it opens up something called the console window. Okay, so we have our project and our project files over here. We have our code editor up here. And down here is the console window. And when we print system.out.println, it goes to the console window. And we can see right here, our program said, printed out the words, hello world. Can I make that one bigger? I can. Right. So you've just wrote your first program. Traditional first program in any language that people write should be hello world. I'm old school. I like people to write hello world. I think the book, if you followed the book, it wanted you to put welcome to Java in here. And you can change it to that if you want. Welcome to Java. Whatever we put within these quotation marks, those words are going to be what gets printed out. And now it prints welcome to Java. Be careful of some things. After println, we have parentheses. So there's an open parentheses, and over here is a closed parentheses. Inside that is a quotation mark with our words, and then the ending quotation mark. They all have to match. Open parentheses requires a closing parentheses. Inside of it is where our quotation marks go, and the words go inside the quotation marks, the set. And over here we have a semicolon to end our line. So if you accidentally delete any of those things, you probably get a little red squiggly here. And if you hover over it, it'll say something to try and give you a hint on what you might be doing wrong. So if I hover over this right now, it says, hey, I'm expecting a semicolon. That's a message telling us that the compiler needs a semicolon. It's expecting one. Why don't you have one? And so I'll go put it back in. How about the right parentheses if I take that off? There it again. And it says, hey, I'm expecting a closed parentheses. So I can put it back. How about if I delete this one? It says not a statement. Okay, this is a statement. Print line without an open parentheses doesn't mean anything. So this isn't as quite of a great error code as it was for the end ones. So we might have to spend a little work to figure out what's wrong. But one of the things you can do, if I highlight a parentheses, it should show me the match. And notice it's in red. It says, oh, that doesn't have a match. So that kind of leads me to believe it should be here. When they're there, I highlight one, it highlights the other one in the same color. If I highlight this one, it shows me this one. It's very light blue. So hopefully you can read it in the video. But try it yourself. Same thing for the quotation marks. If I highlight the quotation marks, well, it's not working. It's not working for the quotation marks, but it does for the curly braces. There's the beginning curly brace. Here's the end. Notice our class has a curly brace too. And down here's the matching curly brace for the class. All right, so that's Hello World or Welcome to Java. Hopefully you got it to work. If you didn't, go back and look at the videos, watch my code carefully, and see what you did wrong.